Hey everyone, welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast. We have some pretty awesome guests this week. We do this podcast every week in order to teach people about aquaponics and cannabis and all things related to both of those realms. Sorry for the weird camera issues today. I cannot figure out what's going on with my camera, so I'm all tripped out. We're gonna have a great show today. We have a really awesome guest today. Dr. George Brooks is with us, one of the leading experts on aquaponics, and we also have Aloha Terps. Do you guys want to introduce yourself?
Oh, we do? Who goes first?
Why don't you go ahead?
Me?
All right. Yes.
All right, I will go first. I'll try to keep it brief. My name is George Benjamin Brooks Jr. I am the CEO of a company called NXT Horizon. We focus on ag tech and primarily on doing great things with aquaponics to make it more mainstream and less expensive and more applicable to more situations. Is that enough?
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. And Aloha Tips, why don't you tell us a little bit about your channel and what you've been doing?
I got into aquaponics like 5 years ago, and I just started doing cannabis on aquaponics maybe a little over a year ago. And so I'm still in the beginning experimental phases of it, and I've been trying to add some homemade inputs and stuff like that. So that's kind of what my channel's about and what I'm up to with my setup.
Wonderful. We have Marty back again this week after he ended up. It was funny. Last episode, he literally messaged me I don't know 30 seconds to a minute after I ended the podcast and was like, "All right, I'm home." So it was pretty funny.
Yeah, we had my boys' basketball team had a game last Thursday. They only play on weeknights, like one or two games out of the season. Usually they're on Saturday, so it's not a big deal. But I coach the team, so I kind of have to be there.
Nice.
So it was fun.
Sweet.
What have you been up to, Marty? What's new in your realm?
Oh man, just dealing with the holidays for the most part. We're still gearing up to move. Looking to get started around March 1st on the new farm. So we'll probably be moving some plants in hopefully next month. So I'm in all clone and mom mode at the moment. So probably cutting clones about every 3 days or so and setting them up in there. So I don't have anything flowering right now, just a bunch of moms and clones. And then we'll get everything moved and start another flowering run once we get everything situated the best we can. So not a lot in the garden at the moment, but a lot everywhere else.
Awesome. I've been getting everything get a bunch of planning done out here at Eden Art Gardens, planning out the greenhouses for next year, and working with the people at Eco Cultivos down in Puerto Rico. We're getting ready. We just we had an issue initially with where the farm was going to be because of zoning with the new government. So we had to sell the first property we had and go buy a new one real quick, which was kind of a headache. But that is all sorted out now, and we're now bulldozing and prepping the land so we can begin construction sometime at the end of March or beginning of April. It looks like tentatively. So then we'll be down there working on that. A class at Ouroboros, if anyone's interested, coming up on the 21st and 22nd. We'll be teaching aquaponic cannabis classes up there, and we'll be doing a monthly class of either that or medicinal herbs in aquaponics for most months in 2017, with one or two exceptions to that, April being one of them, for obvious reasons. So other than that, it's been kind of quiet in my world, just again also dealing with the holidays and getting everything all set with all that stuff.
Definitely.
Dr. Brooks, what have you been up to lately, and why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do on a daily basis and some of the expertise you have and your background?
My background. All right. Let's see how little can I say about this?
Go. You have the floor. Take as long as you want.
No, that's a bad thing to say to me. You see, my background is that my father was a preacher, and I got my skills accordingly. So I can take an hour, 2 hours, 3, wherever you want. So my background is I got a degree in marine biology from not too far from where you are right now, Steve, down there in San Diego State. And had a very good time focusing on aquaculture of tilapia and saltwater. I moved back to my home in Arizona, where I was born and raised. I ended up getting a job as University of Arizona faculty as the aquaculture extension specialist, and went back to school there, got a doctorate in renewable natural resources, put all these things together, and became or tried to become a professional aquaculture person. Regrettably, there weren't a whole lot of jobs in that, but we were able to work it out, particularly when we discovered aquaponics. And that is been the very thing that I was looking for. I've always wanted to bring aquaculture into the city in a way that it makes sense. Regrettably, in the desert where we are, having a recirculating aquaculture system, because it's wasteful, we got to dump some of that nitrate away. It just wasn't cost effective. But aquaponics gave me a recirculating system that the filter was a profit center. And so that made it practical. But since then, my focus has always been what you can do with something, and also looking at aquaponics going more mainstream. And the way that we've been, excuse me, just like with the Model T, there's a way that innovations move through society. You have the folks who start things, who see the vision, but then the folks who learn the vision want to do it too, but they have different requirements, like it being less expensive, more applicable, pretty. So we've been working in that area, trying to get aquaculture to go more mainstream. So we've been trying to reduce the cost and while maintaining its ability to grow wherever we grow here in the desert. And we can grow about 150 different kinds of products. And we pretty well succeeded. And our first product is coming out next month in the form of a book that says how we did a system. We can now build a 50 square foot system for about a quarter of the cost of a traditional one. Somewhere around $600 we got it down to. So if that's quarter of the cost, good, cool. And that's kind of us. My wife and I work together on this. She's a certified master gardener. And quite frankly, she was the one who really convinced me to come back from the desert, where I was working with very large farms and work in the city, because I wasn't paying any kind of attention to this garden she had in her backyard and in our backyard, until she started bringing in all these fish and all these greens and such. And I found out how much she was saving money. So I knew I had to do something to bring my skills in. So aquaponics all work together for us as a family, and it's working out very, very well. That's me in a nutshell. I can talk for a while, but that's me in a nutshell.
What are some of the? What is the name of the book you have coming out?
The book is going to be called 3 Hour Farm. Backyard. There are two ways to look at aquaponics, and you can look at just like any other agricultural technology. You have your comparatively large commercial farm, and then you have your backyard units. I've been focusing on backyard, and the thing that allowed aquaponics to do so well currently is this thing called the IBC tote. They're readily available, inexpensive. Everyone uses them. They're food safe. When you buy them correctly and make sure there's no chemicals in them. And this allowed folks to build aquaponics and be somewhat practical in doing it. Well, there's another thing sitting out there that folks been trying to figure out how to use for years and never have, and that is these backyard pools. Well, you know them. They're about 2 feet deep, 5 to 6 feet wide, 10 feet long. And I've been watching folks for years ask, how can we use these? And all they really do with them is turn them into fish tanks. I figured out a way to turn them completely, one unit, one pool, into a completely functional aquaponics unit. And you can do it in 3 hours. Once you have all the parts together, go to Home Depot or some other store, buy the parts. That's where they all come from, except for the aerator comes from the hydroponic store. And it takes 3 hours to build one. And it only needs one pump. It works on an airlift pump and nothing else. And that does the entire thing, and it grows just as plants as prolifically as any other system does, but only a fraction of the cost and only a fraction of the operating cost as well. Because it's 2 feet deep instead of only 1 foot deep, it's much more stable. The nutrient levels are easier to maintain. Your oxygen levels are easier to maintain. Your pH levels are easier to maintain. It also stores a lot of latent heat. So even if you have it outside, it can withstand a frost or two because there's always latent heat sitting there, so that when the cold air comes, the heat comes out of the water. Now, it can't do that forever. If you get 2 frosts in a row, it might be in trouble. But it's a very, very resilient, inexpensive way of doing it. It's not perfect. It can't do everything, but it does an awful lot for an awful lot less. And the book is, instead of selling these things, we decided the best way of getting this out to the world is to write a book about it. And that way, for $7, everybody can have it worldwide.
That's awesome.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
What have you found were some of the biggest challenges in trying to get the cost down and I guess working towards that whole philosophy that you were just describing?
Will you repeat the question, please? There was a slight breakup.
Oh, I'm sorry. What were the biggest challenges when you were working to get the cost down?
Well, biggest challenges were figuring out the pumping system. I have no idea how this idea came to me. I know where it came to me, but it just all came together at one time. I was sitting on an airplane, literally on the back of a napkin, heading home from Houston, where my brother-in-law just got married, and just came to me all at once. And so it was basically working out the details of what I drew on a sheet of paper, actually working practically. So learning all the little nuances, learning that. But there's one more thing I need to add to this. I teach an aquaculture class. I teach the only college certified course in Arizona at Mesa Community College. And I teach aquaponics as part of aquaculture. There's so much literature already in aquaculture that folks in aquaponics are often trying to figure out, but it's standard aquaculture 101. And if they already knew that, it would solve many issues instantly. So I have that background. Plus, I've worked in waste treatment. What we call media beds, what we call DWC beds, are basically floating wetlands for waste treatment and constructed wetlands for waste treatment. The technology is old. They're replicated papers. There's an entire literature set done by professional engineers on this, and it's all new to us, but the data is already out there. And my first job as a grad student was working on a floating system using water hyacinths to treat wastewater in San Diego, which was essentially the same as a deep water culture bed. So putting all of these things together and recognizing that aquaponics is not aquaculture and hydroponics. Instead, it is a single ecosystem. You get it to work together as an ecosystem and understand how all that works. This comes from my background in science. It just all came to me at one time. As an example, in the deep water culture beds, in the soil we have worms. In the deep water culture beds, we put guppies. They do the same exact thing. So they eat eat the insects. They nibble on the plant roots. They encourage them to grow. They eat the bacteria that are growing there. They add more nitrogen to the water, which is again uptaken by the plants through the nitrification cycle. And then underneath them, we put giant freshwater prawns. So when we have too many guppies, the prawns get the rest of them. Free food. Okay, you turn it into an aquatic ecosystem, and suddenly everything works. And so understanding all of those nuances. Now, quite honestly, there's so much going on when you really look inside of an aquaponic system like this. If I had 6 grad students working on PhDs, they get 6 dissertations and still have more work to do. But it just kind of came to me all at once, and it's just so simple. It's almost silly. It's almost, the word is facile. So it's almost facile this thing is so simple to put together and works so doggone well. So that was the main thing, was basically believing it actually worked. I held back on it for 3 years because I didn't believe this thing could be as simple and work the way it does. I had to be something wrong, beginner's luck, but it actually works.
Mm-hmm. Have you found that you needed to supplement any particular microbial additive or any type of specific microbes or anything else to that to boost, or have you done any work with that?
I have never had to add anything, but that does not mean that that would not work better. There's so much that I have not done. Mm-hmm. I've gotten this down to a basic place where most people can understand it, but there are many things that need to be done. I think, Steve, you were telling me about a type of bacteria that sequesters either phosphorus or potassium. Was that you?
Phosphorus.
Yeah. So there's a product. There's a product that are called Mammoth P, which is a microbial additive that I believe was first discovered by CU, but then monetized through a company called Mammoth P Microbes. They're connected to the university there, and what it does is it takes the non-bios, and in the same way that the nitrogen, Unisoma nitrospira, break bioavailable into nitrate, this does the same thing, but for us.
Hey, Steve, man, you're dropping out.
You should drop your video, Steve.
Gonna see if I can. Yeah. Okay. Is that a little better?
That's a little better. Where you dropped out was that you were saying what the bacteria actually do.
Okay. Hopefully it's a little better now. I dropped the bandwidth a little more. I apologize, guys, that my internet connection isn't the greatest at the moment. I have a new internet connection coming, but it's not here yet. So basically the Mammoth P, in the same way that nitrospira break down nitrogen and make it more bioavailable by converting it from ammonia to nitrate, this converts the phosphorus into a more bioavailable form. I forget the exact chemistry on it, but it works in a similar manner to where it breaks down the phosphorus and makes it much more available.
Well, I'm extremely interested in that because one of the things that we always have is the plants uptake in this system. The plants uptake nutrients so quickly, we're always short of something. Potassium, phosphorus, we're always short of something. And so if we can have some method or means where the bacteria will sequester this and make it more bioavailable, it would definitely help.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest areas of research for aquaponics and even hydroponics going forward, is that all these different microbes that we have a really good understanding of microbes that are part of the food web chain in soil. Mm-hmm. We've tried to do them in aquatics and study them on a microbial level, and that's one of the newer nuts that's cracked. In addition to the phosphorus chelation and mammoth, I believe there's 3 or 4 different microbes in there. Breaks down molybdenum and makes molybdenum much more available. So any plant that's heavy in anthocyanins, like your red lettuce, your tomatoes, your cannabis, in certain instances, sometimes your fruit trees.
I can't go.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just said I can't grow fruit trees. Too big.
Oh, okay. That's one of the few things that I don't know if any other aquaponics place has done a lot of research on. I taught a whole presentation at the Aquaponic Fest, at the Aquaponic Source on fruit trees specifically. It was one of the things that I never got a chance to release the product for when I worked there. Just stayed in R&D, but that'll change before the end of the year this year. We're working with the LA School District at their Earth and Sciences school up there, and we're building out a whole set of fruit trees for them to do experimentation on different types of growth with different types of fruit trees up there.
That's great.
But The molybdenum is really important for going back to what I was saying. The molybdenum for the anthocyanin production is one of the biggest things where if that isn't present, you won't get those purples out of your plants and that red pigment that protects the plant. And you don't, especially for, we call cannabis world, but the same applies for lettuce and for the vegetable world. You want it to look fancy and stand out. You know what I mean? So things like that, I think, is really one of the areas of research that could really use some more getting your teeth and hard data into that isn't always as studied as much.
Well, no, I agree with you. Again, if there's so much that we don't know. I have a saying, one of the first things I say in my class is that your water is your soil. That being true, our ecosystem inside of aquaponics is a poor echo of how complex the soil is. And there's so much that we need to learn. In addition, inside of every ecosystem, we have what are called trophic levels. Each trophic level is where different organisms capture energy from another. And we can harvest those trophic levels if we allow ourselves and figure out how to do them. Right now, all we harvest are the plants that gather energy from the sun, the fruit, whatever else, and or other things. And we harvest the fish. Some of us do, but there's so many other levels in there that in a regular pond or whatever else that are being harvested, but that we do not take advantage of. If we can figure out how to get practical products out of all these different levels, aquaponics would be far, far more cost effective than it is now. As an example, I believe between 40 and 50% of the plant growth is the leaves and such. The rest of it is roots. Yet we tend to toss them, or at best compost them. If we could do something with the roots to begin with, that would be an incredible thing. Finding a product you made out of the roots themselves. And there are a number of other ways of looking at this as well.
Absolutely. I guess on that note, I know you were doing some work with the. At least I saw you doing some posting about the new ruling or potential ruling for the Organic Certification Board. Talk about that a little bit.
I really can't because I wasn't focused on that. No, some other folks like Adam that you had on last week or week before, he was very, very focused on that. Everyone has their expertise, and while these folks are doing great work with the organics and focusing on how we can get over that particular hump, and the little I can say about it is that there's bacteria through all agriculture. Agriculture wouldn't work without bacteria and microorganisms. That folks can get hung up on that issue, and considering how comparatively loose that the standards are for food coming out of the field, we're very, very tight as far as our maintenance of high quality, and that's we need to really get an understanding of that. In addition, the issue that only soil-based products can be organic. This is an ecosystem. This is just an aquatic ecosystem. There's no difference.
Yep.
There's no difference. And so, if soil can be organic, why can't water? Nature does it. We're just copying that, just like you are in the soil. So there's no reason in my mind, there's no logical reason, no scientific reason, in my opinion, of why aquaponics cannot be considered an organic. The organic standards can also not be written for aquaponics just as well. Before I leave on this thing, is a quick thing I did want to say what I am focusing on. I came to aquaponics as a fish farmer. I raised fish all my life. I did my first paper as a junior scientist in 1977 from the USDA Water Conservation Laboratory on fish farming. I have 2 degrees in fish farming. And I first met Jim Ricosi at a conference in 2000, I think, and I wasn't all that impressed with aquaponics because it didn't give me what I really wanted. I had to come back in 2014 and apologize. and get a picture with them. But I saw the error of my ways many years later. But my focus is on the animals. I'm all for the fish. I'm all for the plants. In fact, a friend of mine said to me the other day that, George, you started out as a fish guy, and you become a really, really good plant guy. And this was an expert farmer who told me this, and I'm pleased. And I thank so thank you, Ed Mendoza. I really do appreciate what you told me. But we need, as aquaponics folks, we really need to focus more on the fish than what we do. Fish are, well, seafood is now the world's most important protein source. And more of it is coming from aquaculture because we've made the oceans a mess. The oceans are a waste dump. We did it, and it's awful. And we fished out species such as why do we no longer see orange roughy? I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember orange roughy, but there's this wonderful product in the 80s called orange roughy. Everyone wanted it. Now it's gone because they were fishing out 30-year-old fish that reproduce very, very slowly. And so all of these things combined, and then the population of the world increasing. Right now, there is definitely more food there's enough food produced in the world to feed everybody. The reason why everybody is not being fed is because of economics and politics. In some places, the people who own the cattle can pay for the food better than the folks who actually need it. And so, but in the near future, with 9 billion people, we are going to need new technologies to feed all these people. And we're going to need new protein sources to feed all of these people. In aquaponics, we have a tremendous opportunity to not only produce produce, plants, fruit and vegetables in the cities, but also high quality, clean protein in the form of fish and crustaceans of various types. And if we don't take advantage of it, that's not only an economic waste because we're feeding these fish every day and they're getting bigger and we're spending money on them, and not to harvest them and make a profit with them, to me is a waste. But also we need the protein. Plain and simple, we need the protein. And if now vegan is cool because vegan is very healthy. And sometimes I would like to think about being vegan because I'm getting older. It'll probably do me some good. But like when I'm working with fish all day long, I come home, I want a hamburger with some moo in it. Well, in the same way, folks need to have, still want animal protein. As long as we need animal protein, I believe that aquaponics is a very powerful way of not only producing it, but also creating an entire economy around it where people can have jobs in the cities.
Absolutely. So and a food production technology uses so much less water than current methods. And in protein production, like if you look at the amount of the water used to produce any other protein source aside from aquacultured fish, it's not even close. I forget, it's thousands of gallons of cow. It only maybe 20 or 30 gallons per fish to do beginning to end run with aquaculture. You would know that better than I would.
Exactly. Not even close. The comparisons, just to get them on the same graph would have to be a crazy scale. It's a big difference. Yeah, I remember looking at that before.
It's a tremendously powerful technology, but there's one, you mentioned something just now that I just wanted to put a little clarity on, because I've done a little bit of research into this area.
Sure.
The folks talk about that aquaponics uses like 10% of the water that a garden uses, a regular farm would use growing the same amount of product. There's a caveat to that, because a lot of folks say that they can't reach that. It's all about density, quite frankly. It takes an economy of scale. It takes the same amount of water. If you have a 50-foot grow bed, if it was empty, it would still evaporate as much as the same amount of water as it does when you have it full of plants, not including evapotranspiration. So therefore, the more you can produce, the more water efficient the system is. So So therefore, I highly encourage people to really learn how to produce a lot of food with your aquaponics because they can do it. You know, my wife and I produced, again, we had a 50-foot grow bed and we were going on 400 pounds over a year. And that was just playing with it. It could have done an awful lot more. The only reason we stopped was because we ran into 2 bad months that year, December and January, where things froze up and we had to discontinue and restart. But if we had kept going, we might have made 500 pounds. And this again was a brand new concept on the system. Once we now learned how and what plants to grow, that we could have perhaps even improved on that. Not only growing leafy greens, but if we grew some heavy fruits such as tomatoes or Armenian cucumbers do wonderfully well, or cantaloupe and Chantraise melons, all of them grew very, very well. We could have practically had even more than that 400 pounds of fish, about 400 pounds of vegetable matter, and I think it was about 30 pounds of fish. So we can do a whole lot more with our systems than what we are and still have them grow in a safe manner to where if the power shuts off, you're not going to lose everything in the next hour. That's the other side of the coin.
Now, you've done a lot of work with invertebrates and shrimp and stuff. Have you noticed anything that needs to be, I guess, addressed differently? Like, one of the biggest things I've learned having worked with a lot of invertebrates is that you need to maintain things like your carbonate hardness or dissolved carbonate hardness to maintain proper shell thickness and egg fertility and egg, I guess, survivability, as well as calcium levels. Is there anything else that you've
Well, each crustacean is different. Here in Arizona, crayfish are illegal. There are no native fish in Arizona. And so even the Procanberus clarki, the red swamp crayfish, or the Pastophasticus lenticulus, which is another species in California, they're all illegal, though they're all through our waters. They've done great ecological damage, and Game and Fish wants to get rid of them, and they are illegal to have. And don't get caught with a red claw. Okay, no, they would not look favorably upon that as well. What I have had a chance to work with, however, is Macrobrachian rosenbergi. And they do extremely well in our water. Our water is extremely hard. In fact, we often call it liquid rock. And so they get all the calcium they want. What the real issue is that I am looking at, I have not had any problems with it yet, but it's pH, of course. You know, their shells are made from calcium carbonate. And when we have to run our water slightly acid in order to get the proper uptake into the roots, I have some concerns with the shell thickness and their survivability. Now, so far, I haven't seen any problems. So this is just a hypothesis. I run my water to 6.8, and the max do quite well with that. The issue, of course, is that they're cannibalistic and very territorial. But there are a lot of misconceptions about them that we can still work out and to get a better growth rate. As an example, there's the myth that they only use the bottom, that they are benthic animals. No, they are not. They use the complete water column, particularly when the water column is full of roots. They're all through those roots, and they segregate according to the size of the animals, with the smallest animals up toward the surface and the largest ones hanging around on the bottom. So therefore, we have a 3D growing area that we have not learned how to properly manage and take care of. In addition, they are not carnivores, they're complete omnivores. And so they are therefore eating not only the fish that you have in there, but they're also nibbling on the roots. And if you nibble on the roots, that encourages the plants to grow faster. Hydroponics people know that when they trim their roots, when they trim roots, that it spurs the plant into a new growth phase. These animals are doing the exact same thing. And they're also feeding on the periphyton or biofilms, whatever you want to call them, the bacteria that are in the system, and rotifers and everything else. And so they skim those. And so with macrobrachian, there's so much that we don't know that we believe that we can get a far higher production once we learn the nuances of doing so. And I think that they can be a potentially really good product if these hypotheses prove to be true as far as raising them in deep water culture beds. And also, of course, again, our culture beds are at 2 feet instead of being 1 foot. It gives them a lot more room to work and live in, which again can improve their survivability. So that's my experience with crustaceans. Of course, breeding these things. Mats breed in freshwater, but their larvae must be flushed down into the estuary within 5 days or they die. I found that they are not that hard to larviculture. I made a larviculture piping crystals out of 5 garbage cans and some PVC pipes, and it worked extremely well. The only problem is because they require live food, brine shrimp, and they are very, very touchy, and they literally have to be babied for 28 days. You can't do anything and go anywhere else for 28 days except take care of them. Once we solve that issue, then I believe that we can actually have more hatcheries. But in the meantime, I buy mine. This guy in Texas does a great job, and I really like working with him.
What's the name of that company, if anyone else is interested?
Where, in Texas? Steve? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, it's in Texas.
Well, in Texas, it's Aquaculture of Texas. That's the guy.
And we had a question from chat.
Go ahead.
We had a question from chat, which is, how many gallons do the prawn need?
How many gallons does the prawn need? It's not really measured in gallons. It's measured in surface area. And it's been my experience, in a cultured pond, they need a lot of room. Maybe one animal for every 3 square feet. But when you put that on a vertical with all the plant roots, that changes. But I don't have a good number yet on how that changes. But it's not. So there's some really good literature out there, but it's not measured in gallons. So it's measured in square feet of surface area.
Sure. Another question we have from chat is cannibalism a big issue?
Yes, it is. Crustaceans, when they grow, their skin is a hard shell, and they have to split that shell and come out of that shell. And when they do so, they are vulnerable. And the mats are well known for cannibalizing the prawns that have just molted. And also, that's also part of the breeding cycle. When a female is ready, she molts, and the male protects her until her shell hardens, and then they mate and they bear eggs. And they do this very, very readily. They will breed in a hot minute, and you have orange-berry females everywhere. I believe that part of, from what I've seen, part of the cannibalism issue is that we do not give them, in our standard culture methods, the correct diets. We assume that we feed them catfish pellets, and apparently they don't get what they need. I found that when in my systems, they're complete omnivores. They're eating a whole lot of stuff that's not in the feed that we give them. So, and that may be one more reason for their increased survival. So I can only suggest, this is kind of anecdotal stuff, but if you feed them a more complete diet, you may get less cannibalism. That's what I've seen so far anyway.
That's pretty cool. Have you ever, I guess the reason I originally looked into them was because of their mineralization. My water is very hard to start with. And so, like you were saying, they have all the, my water is very high in calcium carbonate. So, I don't have, my pH is very stable, but it's also very difficult to change and very high to start with. So I was hoping that introducing them into the system, like somewhere, like either in between the grow beds and the current fish tank, almost like my plan is 2 55-gallon barrels that are piped together through the 2-inch inlets. And then there's holes cut in the top of them that I've used in fish tanks before. And so I want to, that's what I'm going to probably be one of my next projects after we get moved, is setting that up and throwing some in there. And I also considered maybe like setting up a place to grow algae for them to eat, because that was one of the things that I was read in some aquaculture, that that they would feed on it fairly readily. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on that, because that was the only place that I really had found anything that would be, you know, relatively self-sustaining in terms of creating them a food source, you know, kind of like, you know, we do for, you know, we use food scraps for worms, and we use black soldier flies for fish and different things like that to create fish food. Is there anything that you found that you might be able to use to create or essentially farm your own invertebrate food, as it were?
Yes. You had two questions. The first question was, could you put them into, are you looking for a place between the fish tank and the grow bed? I put them in, do you have a deep water culture, media bed? What kind of grow bed are you using? What kind of system are you using?
No, I just have, I have a relatively small, I have, well, I have 4 different systems, so that's kind of a long answer, but for the most part, they're all just grow beds of various types, with just like hydrogen and lava rock on the bottom. I don't have any deep water culture.
Well, if you had deep water culture, that's where I would tell you to put them. Since you don't, the idea that you have as far as putting them in between the fish and the grow bed would be the only location that you could have them, unless you want to put them into your sump if you have one. It's not the greatest, because it's kind of narrow and tall instead of broad and wide, and they would prefer it. But again, there's so much that we don't know that I can best say try it and see what happens. But inside of there, you have to have some kind of substrate. You have to have something going vertical that they can crawl on. In my deep water culture, they have the plant roots. Inside of your system, you've got to have something in there that will allow them to crawl vertically along it. You know, and don't stuff it full of bird netting, because they'll get all wound up in that. But if they can crawl vertically through something in there, that will serve them well to increase the amount of surface area that they have to work on. The second thing you asked, as far as growing your own food, again, the best recommendation for Max, as far as for me, would be putting them into a DWC deep water grow bed. And I never had to feed my macrobrachian, because we had an ecosystem working in the deep water culture, and they were simply part of that food chain, and about harvesting things that I couldn't harvest. And so they were harvesting, again, the bacteria off the roots, and they were harvesting the guppies, they were harvesting the roots themselves, and then we would harvest them. And so we never had to feed them. And we had hundreds of pounds of roots down in there, so they had an unlimited food supply. So they did quite well like that. In your circumstance, I don't know how well it would do and how well algae would work. The algae you're growing, would it be filamentous or green water? What type of algae would it be?
I don't know. I haven't really looked into it. It's kind of a concept.
Well, I would suggest that macrobrachian aren't filter feeders. I've not noticed them being really good filter feeders, so I don't think green water would work. But some other types of more filamentous algae, perhaps, or encrusting algae, that may have some potential. Or maybe put something in there to harvest the algae, and then the prawns will harvest them. So
I think probably the better solution might be just having some plants. Get some feedback from somebody there. Having some plants in the top, so that some roots can grow in there and create that space you're talking about.
Yes. I agree.
And they are horizontal barrel, so they're turned on their side as opposed to tall and narrow. So that'd be a little bit better.
I misunderstood. Okay, I thought they were vertical, and that's better. If you were to put plants along the top, just like a deep water culture system, that could work well for you.
Cool. Thanks.
Any more questions?
Steve, are you still there?
He's there, I think, but I think we lost him in bandwidth. Steve.
I'm not sure. Hello, aloha. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Well, Mr.
You have any
Moderator?
questions over there? Or you just soaking it up?
Yeah, I'm just soaking it up. You guys are talking about like crayfish and freshwater prawns, yeah?
Yeah.
Correct.
Oh, correct. Do you have any breeding tips?
Ooh, okay. Number one, don't do it unless you got a lot of time. Number two.
That applies to cannabis breeding too. Don't do it unless you have a lot of time.
You got to have a lot of time and patience to culture macrobrachium larvae. It's going to take you 3 or 4 times to figure out how to do it. There's some good papers out there and literature. Read them carefully. You have to learn how to successfully hatch brine shrimp and separate them from the eggshells. You have to know what size of brine shrimp to feed to the larvae and not to have any extraneous eggshells in there with the prawn larvae. There are a lot of little nuances to it. However, once you learn those, it can become very easy. It's like anything. Once you learn the tricks to it, it becomes very easy. Also, understand that they hatch they're a crepuscular species. That means they like twilight. They all hatch at the same time in the evening. Just as the sun goes down and just as it gets dark, they will suddenly hatch, all of them, from the female's tail. They are what are called phototastic. That is, they will move to light. That means in your culture tanks, you cannot have anything white because they will glom onto it and stay there and never get fed. So there are, again, just a lot of little bitty things that you have to learn to successfully raise macrobrachium larvae. It takes, I think they have, this is from memory, I could be wrong, I think it's 21 stages. And you got to work them through those 21 stages. You got to learn how to take samples and learn what stage they're in and know when they're fed and when they're not eating. You got to learn how to keep that water clean. You have to find the right kind of artificial seawater to use because some artificial seawaters work and some don't. So again, there are a lot of nuances to raising prawn larvae. In addition to that, I know I just went through a whole lot of them. There's such a great potential if we could only get in new stocks. The prawns we have are what are called the Nui stock. They came from Hawaii, but they originally came from Malaysia. Well, these things are native across the entire Indo-Pacific, from North Australia through Vietnam, India, and each area has its own individual strain. We haven't had a chance to look at any of these, very few of these other strains of macrobrachium to see how well they would do here in the States. And each one is a little bit different from the other one. Some are more fecund, they have more larvae. Some are bigger, some have fewer eggs, but the larger eggs are just, each one's a little bit different. And if we had more time, we could find perhaps strains that work even better here in the States than the one or two that we have. There's also macrobrachium also found all over the world, other species. There is an American species, I believe there's a South American species that's nearly as big as the Malaysian species. It's a Macrobrachium carcinus. And the difference is they got great big claws compared to the Malaysian species, and so the claws also could be edible. But getting a pair of them.
That's the one I have. With the big claw.
You have those?
Yeah, I live in Hawaii. I caught them in the wild stream.
Dr.
There's a
Brooks.
video on my channel, and you can see videos of the ones that I keep in a tank.
You know, if you could send Steve or somebody a picture of that, I would sure like to see it. There shouldn't be any wild carcinus, but there might be a macrobrachium species in Hawaii. I guess they are native all through the Pacific, so there's a possibility. Or the possibility is that it's a Rosenbergie that got away from somebody's fish farm. But I would love to see it and understand what it is. And if you have a carcinus, can hold on to it because they're hard to get.
I've suspected that one has, but I always the eggs got sucked into the fish filter or something and lost.
No, the females hold on to the eggs, but the larvae may have gotten sucked into the fish filter and lost.
That's what I was thinking.
Dr. Brooks.
Dr. Brooks.
Farther away from the speaker.
Speak slow.
Oh, sorry.
If you can move my speaker up a lot, fix my audio. I'm sorry. Okay, now it should be much better.
Okay.
Sorry for my audio issues. I had to reboot my. I think, but we're getting a lot of feedback. So if you wouldn't mind, just in between when you talk, with the little button at the top there, just feedback. I apologize.
Got it.
Dr. Brooks, is there any other, I guess, tips you have, or Aloha Terps? Do you have any questions for Dr. Brooks on aquaponics and just pitfalls that people or things that a lot of people do have struggle with or have problems with?
I didn't get the first part before you said the problems or struggles, but talking about those freshwater prawns is very interesting to me though, because I mean that's what I've been experimenting lately in my setup, and I've noticed all of the things that he mentioned from the cannibalism, but I haven't. I would love to get them to breed. Ideally, that was like the dream, but I found a place where I can kind of catch them, and out here they're worth really, really good money. Like the plate lunch places where people sell these and prawn these, there's like, it's like they're worth like $30 a pound easily. And I really wanted to try and get that going, as well as what I'm doing above the tanks, with my vegetables and what I grow on the top, my meds. But I was really trying to do the freshwater prawns, and I haven't seen a lot of people really doing that anywhere locally or even online. So I kind of was definitely something that I've been trying to tweak and work on, but they're crawling out of the tank, and there's a lot of nuances, just like you said, to growing them, and I've been going through those woes myself.
Are you still there, Dr. Brooks? These mic issues now. Hello?
You can see
Dr. Brooks, are you still there? I see he's still in the audio thing. I wonder if somehow he must have accidentally muted his microphone or something.
I can see his video. He's still there. We can't hear you, Dr. Brooks. I'm not sure what you have going on over there. Maybe see if your microphone is muted.
Dr. Brooks having an issue with. You can go up, click the gear at the top, and you can adjust your microphone or your speaker. Problems with Dr. Brooks. We'll get that sorted.
Okay, I'm back.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know how it got muted, but there was a little microphone symbol that showed that it was. So I clicked on it and it came back. So my apologies.
No worries.
Okay, to answer your question in Hawaii, just work on them, man. Just play with them. Work on them. I'm not quite sure what species you got. The ones that I have don't tend to crawl out of the tanks, but whatever you got, work on them, because crustaceans are tricky, but out there somewhere is that key. You will fall into it, and when you do fall into it, it's gonna be good. It's gonna do you well.
Word. Are you on YouTube?
Am I on YouTube?
You can see in my latest video. You can see what species and maybe you could identify them. It might be
I'm sure I can do that. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay.
You're just looping back.
Not
Okay.
right now. Not right now.
No, not right now. Okay. Okay. See, I take things literally, man. You know.
No, I mean, yeah, you can check it out, and then you could leave a comment, and maybe we can talk more on that.
Okay, Steve, if you would be so kind as to leave the proper spelling for his link, I'll be glad to do that.
Are you on the comment section?
I forward his information over to you.
Now, gentlemen, you have to realize that I'm an old person here, and so I'm good with the technology, but I'm not perfect.
No, I got you. Yeah,
No problem. If you could just move the microphone from your speaker or turn your volume down.
Oh, okay.
Pick it up anymore.
All right. Okay. How about this? Is that better?
I'll try talking a second. Turn your volume down just a little bit.
All right. Okay, doing so.
Is that better now?
I'll try talking a second.
Steve, were you talking to him or me?
He was talking to you. They're trying to work it out.
Microphone. Yeah, your microphone is looping everything. Everyone else is saying.
Oh, sorry.
Steve, I think Steve needed it.
Okay, Steve, do you mean to mute me there?
Sorry, I was trying to add the feedback loop. I wasn't trying to be. Rude. We have a question from chat. For Dr. Brooks is where can he buy your book?
It will be on Kindle. Available in about a month.
They purchase it.
Well, you purchase Kindle books through Amazon. It'll be an ebook.
Okay, wonderful.
I wanted to make it as available as possible, as easy as possible.
Is there anything else you want to plug or go over before we switch people?
Hey man, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be on your show. I've watched you for a long time. I've been debating with you and listening, having great conversations over Facebook on various sites, and to get a chance to talk to you and to talk to both of you. Thank you. And all three of you, thank you. For a few minutes in person, I think is a great thing, and I really appreciate it.
Well, we look forward to having you on the show.
Now, gentlemen, if you would forgive me and the young man in Hawaii, regrettably, I do have to run off to another appointment. But again, great meeting all three of you, and I would love to do this again at any time, Steve.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, man. Take care.
Have a great time.
Live on and prosper.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice talking to you.
You as well. And be sure and leave that link so that I can look up your stuff and see what species it is.
I will.
Absolutely. Send me any other links to put in the description.
All right. Thanks a lot, gentlemen. Take care. Bye-bye.
That with the audio loop, guys. I'm not entirely sure what happened there. He was working fine for a bit, and we kind of had to wrap him up a little early. I do apologize. Times it got kind of confusing for a minute. Sorry, Aloha Terps. Please tell us all about what it is that you do, about your channel, how long you've been around, how long you've been doing video content. I believe when I looked on your thing, you started your channel in 2012. Correct me if I'm mistaken. I'd love for us to know more about what you.
Shoot, I don't know if I had my channel that long, but maybe it was probably just for watching videos. I just kind of was just doing any type of content that I was into, and I think I've probably found that aquaponics is probably my most niche content to stand out in on the internet, and it's definitely one of my passions among a lot of other things. And I just enjoy sharing what I'm doing with the world because I know not a lot of people are doing it. So it's just fun to just kind of share the whole process.
Well, for where you are too, being in Hawaii, it's particularly important, right? Because you guys have such a hard time creating, just the amount of, nowhere close to the amount of food that you need. You guys rely so much on the mainland for food that self-sustainability is some of it, and especially using fish and water conservation are all important in that area, more so than they are in other places, right?
Yeah, and not to mention we don't have any dispensaries or collectives in Hawaii.
Oh yeah.
And we were the first medical state to like approve it, but we still have yet to find legal access to patients, and it's still a struggle. So you can have a legal rec card, but you still have to illegally purchase your weed or your meds. Sorry. So
same thing.
I mean, that's kind of another thing that led me into aquaponics and just DIY culture of just having to do it for yourself because there's not really a lot of access anywhere else. So it's just kind of what we're more forced to do. So I feel like that, and another thing that's what separates my content from a lot of other quote unquote weed tubers, that they just go to dispensaries and they get to show off their hauls that they pick up, and it's amazing and it's nice to look at, but it's just not how it rolls out here in Hawaii, and that's not how we roll. So I feel like it's definitely just a different point of view, and I think it's just fun. It's fun to share. I think it will definitely be inspiring for a lot of people, and I feel like the way I do it is a little different than the way everyone else does it. My channel's not monetized, so like it's not really even like a money thing. It's kind of just more like it's kind of more for the art. I use all copyright music, that's why, in my content.
Channel, you still don't get anything. That's more.
You're breaking up again, Steve. I don't know what you're trying to say, but however we
question.
Yeah. So Aloha, when did you start growing cannabis? How much? I mean, not how much have you grown, but I guess how many runs have you done, and what has been your experience with that? I haven't seen your channel, so I'm sorry, I don't know what you've done so far.
I'm only actually probably like in my 3rd season, and I'm just the beginning of flower of my 3rd season, and
cool.
The weather's been pretty rough lately, just with these December months. It's nothing like the mainland winters, but just a lot of rain inconsistently and heavy winds. So ideally, I would like to build a greenhouse around everything this coming year, to kind of make things a little bit more indoor. But other than that, though, I've had a lot of good experiences with aquaponics and growing cannabis on it, and experimenting with KNF inputs and other various organic inputs to kind of give it the boost of nutrients that in those areas that people say that it lacks.
What kind of work have you done in with supplementation?
Pretty much just a lot of live earthworms are in the media. Azomite, oyster shells, water soluble calcium with water soluble calcium with a water soluble phosphorus, and fermented plant juices and fermented fruit juices are pretty much the main things that I've been adding. Oh, and fresh aloe fillets, so for silica. So I guess.
Okay, what is aloe?
Just the aloe vera plant.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware that was high in silica.
Oh, I thought it was. I thought that's. I mean, I'm not like a I thought that's what the value was from it, but I use that too, just
Oh, it's definitely
because.
beneficial for sure. It's just something that's new to me that I'll have to look into. That's pretty cool.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I was noticing a lot of people doing it for their clones, and I figure if it helps the roots in that earliest stages, then it breaking down and working into the root systems in later stages could also be beneficial too.
Very cool. Yeah, that's definitely. I use aloe sometimes in compost teas, and definitely have used it for cloning, but have never used it in that context. But that's really neat.
Or nice.
Later, what as a newer grower coming into the thing, trying to do aquaponics, what's some stuff that you've run into that I guess has been challenging, or I guess could be something that someone also coming into it would learn from.
I don't know. I'd probably say like the most biggest hurdle that I've dealt with is powdery mildew, probably for sure, with one in particular strain, which has probably prompted me to want to get the whole greenhouse, because I know like the real fancy hybrid strains are really indoor. So I would definitely like to move or do a aquaponic indoor setup like in my garage, and do a replica of what I have outside but inside with LEDs. So that's definitely the ideal plan for this year. But yeah, that's probably been my biggest hurdle outside. I honestly don't have any issues with bugs really. I have some slugs here and there, but I do a patrol and I catch them at the time that they come out, so I'm pretty on it. But slugs and powdery mildew is probably my biggest things that I've really been little, in the garden.
Well, you probably probably have some pretty high humidity there, I would assume. So
yeah, I'm pretty high. Yeah, it gets moist, and I'm like high up on a mountain. So, but I mean, we have a lot of wind, so it blows it off. But there's those times when you get those rains and it's muggy, and then boom, there you go.
Your altitude. What is your altitude?
I'm not. Ooh, I'm not quite sure. I would shoot. I don't really want to. I would say I'm several hundred feet up though, at least. I mean, 300 to 500 feet up.
cool.
Okay. Where are you? What's your altitude, Marty? That's a good question.
My altitude here, I think, is about 1,100 feet off of sea level. So, and I'm right on the valley floor here. So we're pretty much surrounded by higher elevation here in the valley. But on the valley floor, I want to say it's right about 1,100 feet.
Okay. I'm up 4,000.
Where you're at there?
High desert. We're at 4,000 here in the desert.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I'm not quite sure, but I'm high up on a mountain.
Cool.
We haven't done nutrient of the week in a little bit. I guess we could definitely do that. Sorry, last episode was a little bit sloppy. I was just answering a question from chat. Marty, do you have any nutrients for this week? If not, I can.
Kind of lost track
With
on
something.
which ones we've done and which ones we haven't. I mean, we talked about phosphorus a little bit earlier when your audio was breaking in and out, and molybdenum. Obviously, I know we've covered both of those already, but so I'm not really sure. Did you?
I think the nutrient of the week we pretty much finished off all the individual nutrients. I am going to be doing individual videos on all of those on my channel, but I haven't been here for a couple of weeks because of where I am.
Yeah, ECSD. Did you have
ECSD.
a particular nutrient you were concerned with this week? We're all waiting. Type faster. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Well, maybe they checked out for a minute. Anyway, so
Uh,
maybe we should just do. I mean, we can talk about the main ones, obviously. But I said not in particular. All right, that's fine. So you
well,
always
I
have
had to.
PKs, and it's obviously taken care of. What did you say, Steve?
Go ahead.
Oh, so then you have your P and your K, your basic ones. We've obviously covered all of those. Yeah, I just think they're a great segment. I just think we've sort of ran out of main nutrients. I think we even did boron. That's going deep.
No, we didn't. Yeah. I wanted to touch on two really big things that happened this week. Give me a second for this to finish loading so I stop lagging. Can you guys hear me okay at the moment?
At the moment, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So what I wanted to talk about is there was two really big things that happened in this past week, and I'd love to hear from both of you. Well, first off, I'd love to hear the two of y'all's opinion on the CBD ruling, because I went off like a bomb last episode.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really change that much in terms of, well, it's stupid already to start with. I mean, basically, it doesn't really change that much about how the state interprets it. Federal law has always basically been the same, but I think it's just more the indication of, coming out and declaring against it and feeling the need to announce it sort of reveals their intentions more than it really, changes the way it's interpreted. It's more of a clarification, really, and it's always been class 1, and it already shouldn't be class 1 along with the rest of it. So, it just seems like more waste of money and, foreshadowing of, more squashing of more industry. That's sort of my take on it.
Well, it also like almost a slap in the face to the medical industry when literally within 7 days of them doing that, the UK is passing it as a medical. The UK labeled CBD as a medical product, whereas the US 7 days earlier, or within a week, labeled it. Just pisses me off so much.
Right, and it's the DEA obviously already had a chance to reschedule it and didn't. So, I can't say I'm surprised. I wasn't surprised by it by any means, but it just seems like a continued waste of funding and time and energy. So, and I think they'll continue to do that. So, that sucks.
Aloha, do you have any thoughts?
I'm not. I mean, was it pulled off all the shelves in the dispensaries in the mainland?
Not that I'm aware of. It mostly has to do with it shipping out of legal states. So, for those of you that don't know, there's only 8 states left that don't have at least this, like, CBD strains or CBD extract is legal on everything except for 8 states. And Mississippi is not one of the. Mississippi allowed the most conservative state in the whole country. Okay, that's why that's another reason why this ruling is insane, completely insane. Aside from the fact that this solely targeted medical users, mostly pediatric people, cancer patients, and people with disorders, the 3 people that need help the most in this country. Sort of people with cardiovascular issues, which is just something that cannabis doesn't help with a ton. Few exceptions, SVT being one of them. That's why this ruling is blatantly offensive. Like you could literally watch for videos on YouTube of people being aided by cannabis oil. Like it's just psychotic. And not only that, affront and offensive, and just a fuck you to family members like me or other people that have family members that rely on through cousin on to any other medications. What the fuck is he supposed to do? You know what I mean? This is insanity. Anyways, the other big ruling that happened this week, I don't know if you guys saw, in Arizona, in Phoenix ruled, and I'll read the exact thing: medical marijuana users cannot be convicted of driving while under the influence of cannabis, absent proof that they were actually impaired. The State of Appeals ruled on Thursday. In a major setback for prosecutors, judges pointed out Arizona, unlike states, that spells out certain levels of THC in the blood. This all stemmed from a guy that was pulled over, and he had, hold on, where's his nanogram? He had 26.9 nanograms of cannabis found in his system. And they found that he had no impairment, despite the fact that he had blood in his system. The cop just pulled him over for some other crap, and basically tried to throw the book at him, and the judge threw it all out. This sets an enormous precedence for case law in the United States about THC levels in the blood, and basically overturning a whole crap ton of both cases and other state laws precedents on this type of thing. There's a whole lot of people that are going to get DUIs now, big thanks to this ruling. And it was one that needed to happen. A medical patient that's dabbing every day, dabs before, in the beginning of their times a day, but is still clear of mind, should not be persecuted. This is complete bullshit. And thankfully, the judge saw that and ruled that way. And Arizona, of all places, which is known for being particularly anal, Arizona, Utah, and Kansas, all before this ruling, could throw you in jail for testing hot on a test, a hair follicle or blood test, just for having any amount of THC in your blood, regardless of the amount. The nanogram amount did not matter. Now, on this ruling, again, the nanogram does not matter. You can have any amount in your blood as long as you can prove that you're not impaired, which basically passed the roadside and you're fine. But we can all agree that no one who's just started smoking should be dabbing or bong ripping and driving. We all can agree on that. But that's different between a medical patient that's taking, like when I hurt my back, I was taking 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams a day. What the hell was my nanogram level? You know what I mean? During all that. And I was still fine. You know what I mean? I'm still able to operate a vehicle, still able to work my job. You know what I mean? Like, not only that, crush it at work. You know what I mean? So it's complete insanity that they're going to draw this, imaginary line at 5 nanograms. It's bullshit, insane. You could have dabbed a couple days and gone a whole week and still been above 5 nanograms, which is the old limit, which is completely ridiculous.
I agree.
Yeah, I think you got to be like, if you can pass the sobriety test, then like what more do you really want? And you could have. We know that cannabis stays in your system for much longer than alcohol, for instance. So, it's just like another attempt to sort of slap on what we already do with alcohol onto what we should do with cannabis. And it's not, it just doesn't apply. It's you're comparing apples and oranges. And so, a credit to the guy who made the ruling, because, it just makes sense. And anybody who looks at it from anything that, any sort of objective perspective, I think has to understand that you can't test for it in the same way that you test for alcohol. A blood test is not going to tell you the sobriety level at the time of the test. So good for them. Good for a lot of people.
Yeah. The other big news I wanted to talk about today, I guess I'll touch on the 2 more minor things before I touch on the bigger thing. First off, props to whoever did the Halloween sign.
Right.
Doesn't know the Hollywood sign. Some morning went and vandalized it into Halloween and put some stuff over the O's. The other one, Israeli military is relaxed its stance on cannabis and no longer persecutes soldiers or reprimand soldiers for testing hot for cannabis, as long as they're not high on duty, which is a huge thing. Not all of us agree necessarily with Israeli politics and how their government handles things, but props to them for doing that, and moving to science instead of bullshit. The big heavy thing I wanted to talk about today is the death of Franco Loja. For those of you that don't know who Franco Loja is, I had the pleasure of meeting him once and corresponding with him via email 3 separate times. And he is one of the strain hunters. If you guys have ever seen Strain Hunters, he is one of the world leading experts in cannabis genetics and wild landrace types of cannabis. And he's was in the Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, working on malaria research with CBD and I guess some kind of research down there, and ended up getting cerebral malaria and dying very quickly. My heart goes out to him and his family and everyone over at Greenhouse Seeds. And it's a huge, tremendous loss to the cannabis industry. And someone that's done more to help the industry in so many ways. Those guys cataloged all the old landrace before they were crossbred out of existence. I just came back from Jamaica, and Rainbow Kush, which is the purple-haired stuff that's known from Jamaica, is all but extinct because everyone wants to crossbreed with the faster-running strains for higher production because the market value of cannabis has gone down so much. So a lot of your rural growers are growing more and more European and North American strains and hybridizing with them, or simply not even growing their local landrace anymore. So a lot of these landrace strains either are no longer available or will not be very much longer. And thanks to him, those are all cataloged and available online, for you to order. Him, we would have lost such tremendous genetic diversity throughout cannabis and that is just a tremendous loss.
Yeah, it is a tremendous loss, and I really enjoyed, his videos, and obviously, whether it was Strain Hunters or they do some amazing independent strain videos from Greenhouse Seeds that are a great resource just for, no matter what your growing style is. I know everybody, we deal with aquaponic cannabis here, but it gives you a baseline of what strains can look like and impression. And I felt like they did a relatively good job of putting together stuff without really pushing stuff, and that just sort of letting you see the plant at different stages. And so definitely check those out. And I really enjoyed them from, especially as a beginner was awesome. And so it definitely it is a big blow. Was a big blow. Still, a little in shock from it, I guess, just hearing about it, and then not really knowing it happened, and then hearing about what he was doing. That's tough. It's such a great thing for him to just be there. So that's awesome for him, and also not as it was. So appreciate the sacrifice that he made, and check out his work because it is also amazing.
Strain Hunters motivated me to want to get out of the country, work with some of their international growers and stuff, watch their videos, that anyone's ever done in aquaponics. Who the hell else has ran around the world collecting up all the land races from all countries across the planet? You know what I mean? It wasn't half the stuff we know about it. Yeah.
I love the Jamaican episode. If you haven't seen it, you can go get it on YouTube and check it out. They're really open with their copyright stuff, and it's and I think they even have some videos, or at least they did. They had some full episodes posted for quite a while.
They still do. Yeah, they do on their channel, on their YouTube channel.
Yeah, on their YouTube channel, you can check it out. And it's actually on one of my favorites, so that's how. Not quite sure where it's at on their list, but I'm sure you'll find it in their videos, or maybe Steve can link it in the description. But the Jamaican episode is, I feel like, is just a particular example of what they were all about. And he looks like he's in heaven when he's in that big ass field of just nothing but land race. He's like a kid in a candy store. And so
I know the feeling.
So that's that's how I remember him, I guess.
Yeah, I can remember just being in a sense of wonder, seeing them for the first time and watching their videos and just being like, wow. Especially the one that really struck me was the Moroccan episode, where it's just literally all the way to the horizon is weed plants. You know? Like nowhere else on earth are you ever gonna see that shit.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you ever seen any other work, Aloha?
Yes, I have. I watched some Strain Hunter episodes, and I definitely admire the work that they put in to secure those landrace strains, and especially for the great lengths that they went to go and to get those and catalog them. I mean, it's legacy work, and rest in peace to Franco. He's an amazing guy.
I rolled like 6 blunts. Okay. That was my current state of mind when I found out. Somebody just sent it to me like maybe 10 minutes before you posted it to the Cannabis Growers group. And so I was just finishing the article when you posted it to the group and sent it to me. And so, yeah, that sucked.
Definitely a big blow.
Did you have any questions, Aloha, for me and Marty, or what other did you have anything else you wanted to add, go over, or plug, or?
No, I just appreciate you guys having me on and involved with the conversation. It's definitely nice to connect with the community that does what we do.
I have a question for you. Do you notice a difference between aquaponic cannabis and other cannabis you can get in Hawaii?
Well, I haven't really got to experiment with tons of different strains. So I would say it's probably just more pride in the product, going from from cutting and from soil to oil, or not even soil, but from. But I mean, yeah, I'm definitely just still learning, and I'm making some progress and whatnot, and I'm just having fun doing it. Yeah.
Are you smoking your own stuff right now?
I am not. I'm currently out, so I have to hit up the homies. Yeah.
I see. Well,
actually, it's local though, but it's from Big Island.
Right on. That's cool. And then, like you said, it's got to be tough to find out there too, in terms of like, you guys have, probably like, even though it's legal, it's not really legal, right? I mean, that's basically what it comes down to.
Yeah, it's just it's cool. It's a small island. It's just like a social network thing, but you know what I mean. So
the old way.
Yeah, exactly. It's the old way.
Oh yeah, we're very familiar with that way.
Yes, we are.
For that it was that way for most of my life. So
yeah.
Yeah.
We refer to that as less than. We like to refer to that as less than legal. Not illegal, just a little less than legal.
Right. We have a big interpretation of the gray area. We'll put it that way. Are you allowed, with your card, are you allowed to grow a certain number of plants?
7 per card.
7 per card?
Yeah, I have 3.
No.
You have 3.
So is that the basic is that the basic medical tier? Is there a high tier? Like in Colorado, you can get up to 99. California, you can get up to 98. I think it is.
No. I mean, as far as I know, for the regular average Joe's medical card, it's just 7. I mean, I don't know what. We were actually cleared to have dispensaries open. I forget, maybe a couple months ago, but nothing has opened yet because nobody's ready. Nobody has anything ready, and there's just nothing's opened yet. But we literally were green lighted for it like months ago, but nothing has opened, and everyone's still kind of just waiting. But even if it does open, I mean, the amount of people that have cards versus market that doesn't have cards. I mean, it's a bigger market of the people that aren't going to ever get medical cards out here and pay that extra 24% tax and whatnot.
That's for sure.
I mean, I don't know, it will change, but it's just going to be a slow transition. It's going to take a while before everyone makes that.
You guys paid 24% tax. That's insane. Colorado is, I think, 2.7, and rec is like 30.
I heard the medical side was like that high, like on marijuana stuff. I heard the taxes were pretty high.
Wow, that's crazy.
Oregon.
I guess to be fair though, too, in your climate, you can grow it much cheaper.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll definitely keep people updated as that goes along. I mean, there's a cannabis convention coming up next month. I haven't really went to the ones that they had previous, and they just had like, a business convention for people that want to get into the industry that's starting to happen in Hawaii. There's grows happening, but I'm not too aware of it because I don't really know anybody involved with it. But there's definitely things that are in the works right now. I'm not too in on exactly what's going on, but I mean, I'll definitely keep people posted. And if a dispensary opens up, I'll be the first one to go there because I got my card. So I'll definitely want to check it out and see what's going on. But I heard there is Canada people involved, and no disrespect to any of them or anything, but I don't know. It's just, it feels like it's just big business everywhere. So I'm not really like.
Yeah, get used to that. I mean, everywhere illegal.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But you'll be able, like, there'll be a niche you can carve out. One thing you might want to mention to people that are interested in what they did here in Oregon first, that was easier to sort of organize locally without having to have a lot of sort of outside influence or a lot of capital was delivery services, where you aren't necessarily getting, you're basically getting paid to deliver medicine as opposed to paying for the medicine. So you're almost more like a courier service than anything else. And that they had that here in Oregon before we could get dispensaries together. And so that was kind of the first stepping stone. And by the way, it's very cool. Basically, you call up and order it like it's pizza and it's delivered to your door. So that's sort of like a stoner's dream. And it's relatively easy to get away with tax-wise. There's a lot of things with delivery services that can be easier to organize than a full-on dispensary. You don't need as much to start out with. Obviously, if you get orders for stuff you don't have, then you can just tell people no, and it's not quite the same as having an empty storefront. So there's a lot of advantages to it. So if you hear of anybody trying to do it, maybe make that suggestion to them, or be on the lookout for it. There might be somebody already trying to do that, and then you can just have it delivered to your door, man. That's really about the best you can hope for there. It was pretty cool. It was the first thing I did when I got my card, man. They had a little menu and everything, man. You pick out your strain, everything. 30 minutes, showed up at the door, paid for it. It was crazy.
And this is before weed maps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Allegedly, in Philadelphia, allegedly, there used to be a delivery service there in Montreal, and you got, yeah, it's just funny to see it all come full circle and be. I
guess it was just weird to have it happen legally, because I mean, everybody's happy.
It was strange to me. I stayed in I went out to the convention out in Vegas, the weed convention, or whatever, a couple weeks ago, and it was awesome to sit in Vegas and fucking use my Colorado card and get delivery weed at like the pool at the hotel. Like that was awesome. Like that was weird to me. Like that I could use another state's card, and and as far as I'm aware, Nevada's the only one that recognizes out-of-state cards, except for, I think they now exclude 215s. Correct me if I'm wrong.
And I bet their tourism from those places, from those states with cards, is fucking through the roof. I mean, because people want to go to Vegas anyway. You know what I mean? Yeah. So now people like me that I don't really want to go to Vegas, but now that I can do that, I mean, shit, I go to Vegas. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You can even fly there. So we can, from here in Oregon, they ruled that you can fly anywhere inside of Oregon or to other legal states with it. So
what?
Yeah.
When did that happen? Because
that was like right after rec. So like even here,
I was under the impression that airports were still federal property and you could still get popped. Is that wrong?
I know for sure that people have been allowed.
Oh, I definitely have known a few people that have brought a decent amount of weed through airports.
No, I mean allowed, like allowed to go through. In Oregon, at the airport, you're able to fly inside of Oregon into other legal states. So the guy that I know flew from Medford to Portland and does so all the time. And so, there were articles from Oregon Live about it too. I'll see if I can dig it up. But so, and obviously, something may have changed between now and then. So make sure you check. Don't yell at me if you get busted at the airport. But I know
as far as I can tell, as long as you have less than like a quarter, from what I know, don't fuck with you too much.
I think it has to be less than an ounce. I think that's I literally hard, but I know for
airport, I watched them pull out someone's pipe in their weed, look at it for a second, put it through the X-ray machine, and put it back in their bag. And that was the last time I went through. I forget what airport it was that I saw someone have that.
Yeah. And so, and like you're saying, obviously people have been getting weeds at the airport for a long time. So, I mean, it's not anything new. It's just the fact that it's at least supposed to be legal, I think is probably, the head turner, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, I've seen lots of weed get through the airport in different ways, like rolled into joints and then like double vacuum sealed. Dog ain't smelling that shit. So I heard.
Well, dogs won't hit on weed anymore, at least in a legal state.
That's what
I've gone through like covered in keef from a grow before. Like there's a couple of months ago, I went through and I came from like right from a grow and I was covered in like little pieces of leaves, and I know that like my clothing just reeked, and the dogs just did not care at all. So
I'm sure new ones, probably. I know. I kind of had a funny experience one time. I was coming back from elk hunting, archery elk hunt. I was coming back from Eastern Oregon, and we stopped at this rest area.
Allegedly.
Oh yeah, allegedly. So we allegedly stopped at this rest area, and I went off to the smoking area and partook in a pre-roll, allegedly, and was headed back over to the restroom, and there was a guy chilling there by the restroom with his dog, and I went to walk by to go to the bathroom, and the dog just started freaking out. I mean, just like barking and barking and barking, and like I was trying to steal his fucking food or something, and and I was like, what's going on? He's like, oh, sorry, man. He's like, hey, I think I was wearing a knife on my side. He's like, I think it's your knife. He's an ex-police dog. So he gets a little jumpy around knives. And I was like, oh, well, if he's a police dog, that's probably not what he's jumpy about. I reek like a motherfucker, man. Just got done blazing. So it was pretty fun. I had a good laugh.
Yeah, no, unless you're going through like international flight or something like that, it's generally they don't hit on weed anymore. The other thing is if you're doing, they will hit on terpenes, but if you have like a really clean shatter or so a lot of other waxes and concentrates, they don't hit on it because it doesn't have, the dogs aren't trained to THC or CBD, they're trained to hit one of the terpenes. I forget which terpene it is, but without that terpene, the dogs won't hit on it. So
crazy.
But yeah, so we have chat. It was in media bed systems, do you leave the roots of harvested plants in the bed for the worms? No, that at least I don't. It causes too many issues with root rot, fungus, and potentially food for pythium, which is root rot, or root aphids, or just other pests that can mess stuff up. We generally pull out, as much of the roots as we can, and then we'll compost them, and then I'll use that compost for the upper layer of my dual root zone in the future. But that's generally what I do. I don't know if you guys do anything different.
I do pretty much that. I mean, obviously, you're always going to have some root material left behind when you pull out a plant. So, for the most part, I take the majority of the root ball and put it in, and compost it, like Steve was talking about. And then what I also do for anything that's left in there, and I guess really I just do it anyway. Anytime I pull a plant out, I have like an EM1 powder that I ordered from Terragenics, which is basically just like a rice syrup powder with EM1, which is like lactobacillus and a few other microbial inoculants. And so I'll sprinkle it in wherever I took the plant out. And ever since I started doing that, and put a lay in there and kind of mix it up, I haven't had any issues with root rot. I haven't seen anything like that. And then also I have a healthy, worm population in there too. So, they consume all the rice powder and all that stuff too. So I've had really good luck with doing that. But the ball itself, I wouldn't leave it in there. And don't leave it in there. I throw it in the compost, but I usually don't, worry about it too much in terms of like trying to get the whole thing out, or like I used to do to try and keep root rot down. So you can look into that stuff, or you can use pretty much any like microbial inoculant that you can sort of sprinkle on there just to break down any of those dead roots, so that sort of out competing them as opposed to getting rid of them or trying to filter them out.
Microbial you're looking for when you're dosing for that specific purpose is trichoderma. Trichoderma tend to wipe out Pythium pretty aggressively. So if you do happen to get a little bit of root rot on the decaying root matter, adding a microbial, something like Recharge or any other microbial additive that has trichoderma, tends to do really good. Just remember the trichoderma will add like a fuzzy, if it is too prolific, it'll make like a fuzzy growth on top of your soil, or your media layer. That's not a bad thing. It's
a very good thing.
Mold. Yeah, exploding and replicating out of control and taking over, which sometimes can be a bad thing. Trichoderma, if you have too much of it, can wipe out everything else in your system as far as microbials in your soil layer. But generally, as long as you keep below 2% trichoderma or mixtures with 2 below total, but it is the main microbe that helps prevent Pythium more than just about any other. So, do you guys have anything else you want to touch on this week? I didn't have as much time to prep a full show as I normally do, and I apologize for that. We're going to be a little bit better about this year. I have a rough version of the intro already, clean it up for this. Was trying to have it ready for this year. But we have some really awesome guests coming up next week. I'm not 100% sure who the guest is, but the week after, we have Donald Bailey, from the head researcher at University of Virgin Islands, will be joining us for an amazing interview. Probably one of the most knowledgeable people, definitely up there with Dr. Brooks and Ken Armstrong we had on here. But he's been on doing this for an extremely long time. And any aquaponics knows that UVI has been researching it for much longer and put out way more data and way more the largest knowledge base that's been put out by a single source, as far as I'm aware, on aquaponics in terms of hard data. And it'll be really great to have him on the show.
Sweet.
Looks like I'm not really sure what happened. He should be back in a second. I guess he crashed. And yeah, I'll be showing some shoots in Puerto Rico here. I don't have the exact date of when I'll be down there. I think it's going to be April. I don't have the exact date yet, though. We'll have out an Aquaponic Cannabis grow in Puerto Rico. Marty just messaged me. His internet just went down. So, okay. So Marty's going to be... I don't know if Marty's going to come back, but you can reach Marty at
Sorry, you're breaking up.
Oh, Aloha Terps. Would you like to plug your YouTube channel? Or
Yeah,
latest
yeah. Just
video?
check out my yeah. If you guys want to check out my channel, check it out. I appreciate you guys having me, and it was definitely cool to be invited into the conversation.
Yes,
Thank you guys.
his YouTube channel is Aloha Terps. And there's a link to his channel in the description if you would like to. And my YouTube is always is Ponics. I apologize for the show this week. We're in the process of switching internet service providers, and I'm not sure the exact here. See what I can do about audio up for next week.
All right, cool. Thank you. No, that's it. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. And
Have
if
a
you
good
guys,
night.
you too. And if you guys want to reach thanks everybody for listening. Again, sorry for the audio issues, and have a good one.
Easy. Peace.
Peace.